Okay, we are rolling. Oh, so today is July 4th, 2018. And you had a very complicated, well, I don't know if the question's complicated, but your life situation sounds complicated. So you asked me what's going to be happening in the next 90 days. So we're basically going to be looking at the next season or the next quarter. So, basically, well, we're not that far into summer. So what's going to be the energy around the summer and coming up onto the fall? Let's see, you asked specifically about career, health, military, love, and personal relationship with your sister. So those are a lot of things. So you said the health question was about you specifically. Love is about you and you're single, although you've been talking to someone for about 5 months. Then the relationship with your sister, you've been living together and she hasn't been working and you've been needing to support her, so there's some friction. And then you just re-enlisted for 3 more years of service in the military. And then you also just started a job as a diesel mechanic. And is that temporary, or is it looking temporary, or is it looking permanent? So I'm gonna have to keep looking at this as we go to make sure I cover everything. So, because that's a lot of stuff. So we'll see what we can do. I usually talk too much, so I'm gonna try to do it quicker. Otherwise, this video will be very long. So this was the deck that you picked in the teal paisley, what's it called, bag, and I used here. So I used that number that you gave me numerologically to draw 2 cards for you. This is the tarot deck. The tarot deck that you chose is called the Smith-Waite Tarot Deck Borderless Edition. And so I used that number to pick a guide card for you. A guide, sort of like an epilogue or a summary for the reading. And I always pull that card last into the reading, so I'm going to put that aside. And then I also used the number to draw an oracle card for you. This is the one I was drawn to for you. This is Carolyn Mace archetype cards, or archetype cards. I always say that wrong. I don't know why. An archetype is basically like sort of a grand category, or like a way of being. So. Let's see, and I use this to set the theme of the reading. So let's see what your card is. The storyteller, interesting. So the archetype that you drew is the storyteller. So for the next 90 days, where can you draw on the archetype of the storyteller in your life? Where can this be helpful to you in your life in the next season? So it says on the card that everything has a light and a dark aspect to it, especially tarot. Pretty much everything has a polarity like that. So the light aspect of the storyteller is the ability to experience and express life through stories and symbols. And then the shadow attribute is making up tales that harm others. Well, I hope you're not going to be harming others, but think about where this archetype of the storyteller comes up for you in the next season. So I'm going to put that over here for now. So I'm going to draw 3 cards to lay the foundation for where things are right now, like kind of what's going on. So I'm just going to draw 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's take a look at these. Okay, so I usually read them in this way, in the direction that we read. So in the recent past, it looks like what's coming up onto today's reading is that this is the 2 of Swords. The swords are the suit of the mind, about intellect and about logic. And the woman sitting here in the photograph is basically blindfolded. She is twos. It's the Two of Swords. Twos are often about issues of balance, trying to make a decision between two options, weighing options, things like that. There's an occluded moon. Like, so the moon is mostly covered, so it's either a new moon or a waning moon, and she's basically holding two swords. Now, swords, if you've never held them before, are extremely heavy. So to hold them that way with your wrists at an angle like that, and given gravity is pulling down on those, you can't really do that for very long unless you're specially trained, you know? And even then, you can only do that for so long. So this is a very unnatural pose to hold. So also, you'll notice that the way her arms are configured there over her chest, and your chest is where your heart is, right? So basically, this woman is trying to make some logical decisions to work things out on an intellectual level, and in doing so, she's really closing her eyes off. She's basically not seeing everything while she's focused on these decisions. And she's also closing off her heart to the world while she's weighing these options. So there's some heavy decision making, some heavy intellectual logic, and just trying to figure things out right now coming into this. Now, the next card is it's the Nine of Cups. I'm going to turn it right side up. So the Nine of Cups is the wish card sometimes. It's about getting your wishes. I usually don't look at it that simply, but it does speak to a feeling of being fulfilled and contentment. The Nine of Cups are, the cups are the suit of emotion, so this is really on emotional level of being fulfilled. And I want to show you I have another deck here where they're all in order, so I can pull another card and find it quickly, just to draw the contrast. I wanted to show you the Eight of Cups, since they kind of make a sequence in a story here. So the Eight of Cups, something's missing on an emotional level. So you can see that the 8 cups are arranged, and there's a hole here. And that hole, the man is going off to basically find something that's missing. So in the 9, what's missing has been found on an emotional level. So there's there's a degree of knowledge here about what was missing on an emotional level and being able to find it. However, so you know what it is because you found it, but it's blocked. So I read reversals as blocked energy. So this means that whatever you need for emotional fulfillment right now, you know what it is, but it is blocked or delayed. The other way I read reversals is that it's going to be a tough slog. Usually things that are hard to obtain are delayed anyway. It takes longer. So you read that how you will, but there's definitely blocked energy about the emotional fulfillment aspect of where your life is right now. And then unfortunately, like as we kind of read the progression here, my tarot teacher, one of my tarot teachers has a pet name for this card. He calls it the itty bitty shitty committee. Like when you have like just a whole bunch of things eating at you in your head. But I don't read it exactly that way. This is the Five of Wands. Wands are the suit of fire, your will, what you want, things that feed your passions, the fire inside you. And the 5, there's like 5 figures that are all dressed very similarly. They're all of the same age and same size, and they're all on level ground. So they're really just, you know, it looks like people that are practicing battle, right? And actually you mentioned military, so this might have special meaning for you since, you know, military is about battling and stuff, but the 5, where the 5 is that, you know, it's just like a battle of wills. There are a whole bunch of people, there's no clear winner here, and so it's just a whole bunch of people who are arguing and no one can get the upper hand, and so they're just kind of like, what are they doing? They're wearing each other out. The battle of wills is just kind of, you know, they're not getting anywhere, they're just battling. Some people see it as playful, it depends on the question really, but you know, battling is never an easy thing to do. So I would say that, you know, for the season at least, for the summer, it looks like there will be a battle of wills in your life. So now I'm going to look back to your message to me so I make sure I don't forget anything. So let me do it in the order in which you asked. So you asked about, I'm just going to roll these out. I'm going to spread these out one more time fresh. So the first thing on the list in the message is health. So I'm going to go ahead and pull a card for your health. Let's take a look at your health, and I'm going to pull the second one too for love while I'm drawing. So love for you. Okay. So we've got health and love to start with. So let's look at health. Okay, so the Page of Pentacles. So pages are, I usually use the word like a debutante. They're kind of the beginners. It's a court card, so like the standard playing cards, there's one extra compared to playing cards. There's pages, knights, queens, and kings. Pages are the youngest, so of their suit, they basically have the youngest energy. They have beginner's energy. Some people, however, say that pages represent that you're going to receive a message. I usually don't read them that way, but in case you receive a message, just be aware that that's one of the possible definitions here. I don't know if you're expecting a message from health. If you were expecting a message, I would say that it would be kind of negative because it's reversed. But let's put that sort of old-fashioned definition aside. So the pages, to me, what this really means is that you're at some sort of a beginning state for your on the level of health here. And the pentacles, what those represent is earth. They represent earth in a way that represents like your livelihood, like, you know, just like you're meeting your basic needs. Since you asked about health, like where are, like, you know, things like, I would say pentacles in relation to health would be like, are you sleeping enough? Are you eating the right foods? Are you taking care of stress? How are you taking care of yourself? And it sounds like like a king would have achieved mastery over this. A queen would have mastery in a very nurturing sort of way, like in the way, you know, like a mother, like mother's wisdom, that sort of way. But pages are young and they're just starting out. So I would say that on the level of self-care, of taking care of your health, of making sure, like, I think it's basics for you because you're just beginning. So it's about sleep. It's about remembering to drink water. It's about if you're having trouble sleeping, don't drink a whole bunch of caffeine. I think this is really about basics for you, trying to figure out where you can just start to take care of yourself in terms of health. And it's going to be difficult because it was reversed. So that means it's either a tough slog, or considering how many things you asked me about for this reading, it could be that you just don't have enough time to even think about it because you have so many other things that you're dealing with, right? So health. I'm going to draw a guide for your health, actually. So this one. So what's your advice? Okay, so death and reversed. So that means, so death is really about transition, right? It's not about literal death. So because the question we just posed, right, is about what kind of guidance can we give you about health. So I think the way I interpret this is that death is about transitions, meaning in order to, and I should state too, this is a major arcana card. So the majors are numbered 0 through 21. So there are 22 of those cards, and they're really archetypes, just like we talked about with that oracle deck here. And part of your, and 13 is about the midway point of the journey. If you look the journey from 0 to 21. So that means kind of midway along any journey, there's like a point where you have to die. Like you have to die to be reborn, like the phoenix. That's what this kind of death is. We have to become someone else sometimes, or like the caterpillar dies and goes into a sleep before it becomes a butterfly. So I think you need a level of some serious transformation on the level of your health, and it's going to be tough because it's reversed. So since I don't know anything about your health, and I'm not a doctor, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what I say, but I mean, of course, you need to like take care of yourself on a doctor level. But it does seem like, and maybe the fact that the death thing, like the big change, might be that you have been self-medicating in some sort of way, and now you need to transition to actually using a real medical practitioner. Maybe that is the big transformation that's that needs to come into your life. Or maybe you just eat like shit and you really actually have to bite the bullet and find a diet and I don't mean a lose weight sort of diet, I mean just a way of eating that makes you feel like you are thriving instead of feeling like shit. So you figure out what that means, but some sort of transformation needs to happen for you, and it's going to be tough. Now, in terms of love, let's see. Stuck. There we go. Love. Okay. This is the Queen of Cups, so we've got another court card here. Cups are the suit of emotion. So on an emotional level, queens are rulers. They have achieved a certain level of mastery. Kings tend to be authority figures who give a lot of orders and have mastery in a masculine sort of energy. Queens achieve mastery in a completely different way. Queens achieve mastery in terms of more of a, if you know yin and yang, so it's a yin sort of mastery, meaning like kind of stepping back and kind of examining how things are going and basically nurturing situations. Like if it's about planting a seed, it would be taking care of it by watering it, making sure it doesn't freeze over in the winter, things like that. The Queen of Cups is interesting because the chalice that she's holding is actually completely covered. It's got this sort of triangular shaped lid on it, and it's completely closed. So like we said with the archetype card, there's always a light and a dark side to every card. So there's a nurturing energy here on an emotional level, but there's also something on an emotional level that's hidden, right? Very kind of echoing the sort of keeping the hands in front of your heart so that your heart is closed off over here when you're making this intellectual sort of decision. Queen is likewise, like, queens have a lot of shit to do. They're rulers, right? So when you're doing a whole bunch of shit, there's maybe a protective aspect over the emotions here, and maybe that the lid on the cup here could represent that, right now on a level of love and romance, if something isn't actually growing the way you need it to, it could be because there's an element of you being closed off on an emotional level. So maybe the lesson in this card for you is, how do you take the lid off of that cup? If not, it may just be, you told me that I think that you've been talking to someone for 5 months. So you've been talking to someone, you've been laying the groundwork. Have you been doing it in a nurturing way? Are you basically already on the path to having a relationship, being the queen and nurturing I'm hesitating to use the word relationship, because I really don't know what it means that you've been talking to someone for 5 months and what level you are. But I'm going to go ahead and draw a guide for the love now too. Like, where can we kind of give you some advice here? So, okay, so one of the basic meaning, so the card was reversed. I'm just going to turn it up so you can see the picture. So this is a guy, there's like a camp here, some tents, and there's like really small here, there's some troops, someone's holding a spear, they look like they're gathered around a fire. So it looks like sort of like an army camp, and interesting because you mentioned military. So there's the guy in the foreground, however, he's tiptoeing, so he's doing something sneaky, and he is basically making off with 5 swords. There's 7 total, so it's like 5 and 2 here. Because I said it out loud, I usually don't say that out loud. 5 is the number of struggle numerologically, and you have the 2 is part of balance and the challenges around balance. So 5 and 2, I don't know, I'm going with my intuition here because I normally don't say that out loud, and I did. So for the 7, it's 5 and 2, and 5 is struggle. So this could be that there is going to be some struggle for you. Now, the basic definition of this card, like in most readings for when it comes to love and romance, is it's being cheated on. Because, the message of this card is that since he's sneaking away with something that people assume does not belong to him, often this card indicates cheating. You don't have to read it that way though, because cheating doesn't make sense if all you're doing is talking to someone. It could also mean deceit. It all depends on how you look at this card, right? Because he's tiptoeing away, but for all we know, he's taking those swords because they're rightfully his, or his family's, or his side's, right? And they were stolen in the first place, and he's just getting back what was his. We don't really know what's going on in this card. Another thing that could be happening in this card is that those troops in those camps, they could be about to commit genocide. So he could actually be doing something very noble right now. But you know, the real lesson in this card is swords are the suit of intellect and logic and whatnot. So there could be a lot of things going on in this, you know, on in this. So figuring out what rings true for you is paramount here. But it's definitely, you know, a part of an intellectual journey here, a journey of logic, and but there definitely is a message that there's some tiptoeing going on, right? So that's either out of necessity or maybe it is out of deceit. Now it's reversed, so I think here it's that there's again some blocked energy around romance. So I don't know, maybe it is sneaking around because like there's, for all I know, you're the one, I don't know you, so maybe you're sneaking around. You know, it's really hard to say, people sneak. But so the guidance we have here is, I would just say to be on the lookout for where you might be deceiving someone or where they might be deceiving you. And it might not be apparent because it's reversed. There's going to be a blockage in that area. I don't know what else to say. I mean, this card over here is to some degree about self-deceit, like, you know, because the person in this card has put the blindfold on themselves. They're not bound, they're not tied up, right? So she can take that blindfold off. She's choosing not to see here. So these two swords here, there might be some sort of resonance here. What are you, like, and of course the people here are not noticing what's actually going on. The people around the fire in the encampment are not seeing what's going on. So maybe there's something you need to just figure out and see. This is covered too, right? So there's a lot of hidden energy here. Let me look at your message again, and want to make sure I don't forget to address anything. Now you have two aspects to job, and then we have the question of your sister. So let's do your sister first. So what's the energy around your sister? Okay. And then what's some advice for you around the whole sister thing? Okay. So the sister thing, I'm gonna have to move these over because we're getting really crowded. Okay, so the moon is the card of, there's definitely female energy is a big lesson of the moon. So the moon, there's something kind of, it's echoing some of these other cards too, this hiddenness. So the moon is you know how there's like the man in the moon? You can always see the man in the moon. Whereas, you know, like Earth, if you were looking at the Earth from the moon, the Earth rotates. So sometimes you'd see like the Americas, and sometimes you'd see Europe and Asia because the Earth is rotating. The moon doesn't rotate. It actually rotates once, but basically as it rotates around the Earth, the same side of the moon is always facing us. So one of the aspects of the moon is that there's some hidden knowledge to be gained because the moon is illuminating you. The same side of the moon is always illuminating us, but there's a dark side too. So there's like a shadow, and there's something that could be accessed. It's difficult to access, but it's often sort of a hidden knowledge, and in a feminine sort of way, since the moon is really the symbol for females, right? It you know, like menstruation is monthly, menstrual, all of that sort of stuff. So there's a degree of hidden knowledge here. Also, there's like this figure of like this crab lobster-y type thing coming out of the water on a path. There are these two great beasts. And so there's also an evolutionary aspect to the moon here, that there's this creature coming out of the water onto land, which kind of symbolizes, well, not kind of, it symbolizes evolution. And there's this path that winds all the way up and gets tinier and tinier into the mountains, and it goes between these two towers. So part of the use of this hidden knowledge is to make things evolve, right? So the evolution is this animal that's coming out of the sea onto land, and it has to face some basically some harrowing harrowing, like if you think of the hero's journey, like you know, like in the Greek myths and stuff, there's always like some big challenge. So here you have to go past these two enormous dogs, which dogs, you know, normally we think of them as pets, but like these are wild dogs, and this thing is small, and it has to get through them in order to find its way along the path. So there are some big tasks here, but with the hidden knowledge, you can do it. You can make that journey. So I think, you know, on a feminine level, there's stuff that you guys need to evolve, right, to make the relationship work better. Let me. Okay. So the advice card. I'm going to turn it right side up. So, okay, it ain't going to be easy. That's the advice. Since the advice is reversed, I'm going to say that it's the tough slog aspect. But there's another emotional card. It's the Five of Cups. This is sort of like a sorrow card. So something might be ending, right? Sorrow is usually about a loss. So there's definitely the aspect of a loss in this card. Now, the challenge with here, and so the guidance for you is that if you look at the figure is forlorn, looking downwards, his back is to us, dressed in black. There's 3 cups, and they're all spilled, and they're tipped over, and their contents is spilled out onto the ground. So there's a definite loss here. Once liquid's on the ground, you can't get it back up again. But there's 2 cups behind him or her. So basically the person in the picture is focusing to look at what is lost and is ignoring the fact that there are 2 things still, there's still 2 cups that are upright, right? So this is one of those, you know, where if you can have gratitude for certain things, or looking at the bright side is really an oversimplification, but you know, this is one of the reasons why people keep gratitude journals. If you focus on the shitty stuff, you're gonna feel shitty. And there's like often some good things that you're not recognizing. So being able to turn yourself around to recognize the good things is part of the challenge and advice in this card. Now, the 2 of the cups spilled red liquid, and 1 of the cups spilled green liquid. So the red, you know, you can think of as wine. The green liquid, some people think of as poison. So one of those, you know, the light and dark aspects of this card is that yes, something was lost, but if one of those cups was filled with poison, you actually didn't want it in the first place. So that's one of those blessings in disguise aspects that you can't see when you're in a bad situation, right? Like you've lost something, but you didn't want it in the first place. But the good news is that there's a river flowing through here, and rivers, as water runs through things, it cleanses, right? So sorrow is something that you get over with time, because the water will run clear and it will clear all of that out. And in the far distance, there's a bridge, and I like to call that the bridge over troubled water. Now, the bridge is far away. It'll take a while to get there, but there is a bridge over the troubled water. So I think that's the, and on the other side where the bridge is, there's this nice, like, sort of palatial home or castle or something. So that represents, like, you know, dreams fulfilled, things like that, the promised land, however you might think of it. It's a positive element. So you can get there. There's a bridge over the troubled waters, but it's in the distance and it's a ways off. So think of that what you will. Now, we've got, let me look at your message again. So there's the fact that you just re-enlisted in the military for 3 more years. And then there's this civilian job that you have as a diesel mechanic. So let's take a look at both the military and the jobs, and also draw some guidance cards for you. So let's first do military. And then I'll draw the advice card now. Do it like that. Can I sneak it under? There we go. Okay. And then now, so that was military. And now let's look at this job as a diesel mechanic and draw some guidance around the diesel mechanic job too. Okay, there we go. We're getting really crowded here. Oh, okay, so the military looks really good. So well, this might be obvious because you re-enlisted, so clearly you don't hate it so much that you didn't re-enlist. The Ace of Cups is, again, cups are the suit of emotion, so this is basically the cup runneth over. So on an emotional level, something is being offered to you. There's a hand that's appearing out of a cloud. It's sort of, you can think of it as a divine offering. Divine offerings are usually temporary, like you have to act on it while it's offered, and that offer isn't like, the offer expires basically, so it's kind of temporary, but you already have re-enlisted. So I think basically something emotionally fulfilling is offered to you, you've decided to accept, and basically the cup's running over. So there's some sort of emotional fulfillment here. There's a dove, which represents peace, so I think maybe that could mean that hopefully you're not going to be going off to war or anything. So that really bodes well. There's so much in your cup, in fact, it overflows and it can fill the ocean. Basically, this is something that can spread to others. So the emotional fulfillment that you're getting from this is something that you are sharing with others, your fellow servicemen and women, right? So this is really good. So military, did you say anything specifically? Other than, I think you just wanted to look at it. So that's looking really good. The advice card is the Fool. So the Fool is the 0 of the major arcana. And it's basically, I look at it as sort of being in the womb. I look at the 0 as an egg because of the shape of the 0. The word, if you know tennis, you know how they say, like, if you have nothing in tennis, they call it love. Love is like the English word that sounds like the word for in French for the egg. L'œuf is the word for the egg, and that's where the 0 comes from. It's kind of like coded in insider language. So I think of this as like the egg, as being in the womb, like all possibilities. There's a person here who's about to be born, and that's like being at birth is like about to step off the cliff. He's got a wand in his hand, which is will and magic. I look at the little bag that he's carrying, sort of like the old hobo bag, that would be tied to a stick. To me, that's like karma. It's your past life experiences and sort of the stored karma from previous lives that are coming with you on the journey. So the advice card is that, well, number one, you've been on this journey before because this is a re-enlistment. So bringing your past experiences with you is part of the advice here. The fact that it's blocked, though, is that I think, like, usually the Fool means that all possibilities at your feet. The blockage here just might be that this enlistment, there might not be a whole lot of new things being born from it. Either that or whatever new thing you need to happen is going to be blocked. So I don't know if there's like a change in rank that's coming up for you, or some sort of progress you wanted to make this time around in this next 3-year term for you. So if there was something you wanted to give birth to as a part of the 3-year term, it might be hard to obtain, or it might take longer than you expect. Either that, or this is just saying that basically it's just not going to happen, and it's just your 3-year enlistment is going to be uneventful. Now with the mechanic's job, this is kind of interesting here. So we've got the devil. The devil, there's certain things like, there's certain meanings, like one of the meanings can be addiction with the devil, like if you're talking about like, alcoholism or maybe overeating and stuff. But in terms of a job, the devil could be, I don't remember if did I just turn the card? Wait, okay, so I know it was like this. You'll have to look at the video because I can't stop it to look. I don't remember if I just flipped the thing over or not, or if I just pulled it out from under. So if it was reversed, it would have had a different meaning. So I'm sorry, I just kind of phased out, and I don't know if I flipped it or not. So you'll have to tell me which way, or you'll just have to take note of which way it was oriented, and I'll say both. So the devil card, there's 2 figures below basically a fallen angel here, and they're chained, right? So one of the things about addiction is that you feel like you're stuck. You feel like you're down in a hole that you can't get out of. So the devil energy is often reminding you that you can you can get out of a situation that you don't like, but sometimes you feel like you can't. Like you have the oppressive like devil here, and if you look really carefully at this picture, the two figures have chains around their necks, but those chains are so loose they can actually remove those chains and just walk away. There's no reason why they can't walk away in the physical realm. So this is really about when you're feeling stuck in a place and you feel like there's no way out, remembering that you can walk away. So you said you just started it. So what I'm seeing here is that you might hate it, or you might feel stuck in it for some reason. Like perhaps that like you might feel stuck. It's like in the sense that, oh, the pay is really good, but I can't leave because of the pay, but I don't like it. Or, there's going to be some aspect where you're going to feel stuck and you need to remind yourself that actually you do have a way out. Whether or not it was blocked, whether or not it was reversed, I wouldn't say that it'd be the opposite. If the energy's blocked here, it just might be that it would be really hard to get out of that job because maybe the pay is so attractive, or there's something about it that keeps you there, and you just have to remind yourself, if push comes to shove and you really need to leave, you can, but it doesn't, you can. I lost my train of thought. So now the advice here, when this card is upright, this is the Eight of Wands. So this is again about will, the fire inside you, the passion. The Eight of Wands, normally, it's all about speed. It's about things that happen quickly. The advice, however, here is reversed. So basically the opposite of speed is slow. It's being blocked. It's a tough slog. So in terms of passion, this job might be totally not your passion, or there might be something, maybe you like mechanics, but it's something about this job or the nature of the work that you're given or the people that you have to work with that is sucking the passion out of you. And maybe that's the reason why you might be tempted to leave. You might feel stuck for some reason, but what this is saying to me is that, okay, on a passionate level, there's like, it might be one of those jobs where every day feels like it lasts forever because it's reversed, and things are not just speeding along, and maybe because you're dispassionate about what you're doing or the type of work that you're given. So it could be that, between the two of these things, you might feel like you hate it, but there's just no alternative, so you're kind of feeling stuck. That's where I'm kind of getting from these cards. Wow, we covered a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and this was the card that we used your number to draw, so this is where you put the energy into the reading, and so this is going to tie it all together for us. The Chariot, and it's reversed. Oh, okay, so the Chariot is, basically, it's a vehicle. I think it's the only vehicle in the tarot. It's the only main card that is a vehicle, right? There's the only other means of transportation are horses in the Knights that I can think of, and the horse here in the Death. So this is often about travel. So I don't know. I'll give you the basic definition, and I'm holding back a sneeze. Okay, I'm not going to sneeze. Okay, so often the basic definition of this card is travel. So I don't know if there's any sort of travel for you in the next 90 days, but I'm going to bring that up just in case that it's the literal definition of the card that, you have to move from one place to another, or there's some sort of travel or vehicle involved. But to the more metaphoric definition, to tie it to everything, this is really about moving forward in your life. So the charioteer, you'll notice that, okay, the chariot itself is actually powered by these two light and dark sphinxes here. But there are no reins, right? So there's because there's no literal reins on these beasts. The message behind that is that you're guiding the chariot by spiritual guidance here, right? Because you're not literally guiding them in a physical and mechanical way. Now, it was reversed for you, however. So what I would say is that If you need to do some sort of motion, it's going to be blocked. If it's spiritual evolution, the spiritual evolution and the moving forward aspect, the moving away from the city, moving away from where you are now, from establishment into something new, if that was an element of something you wanted to address in the next 90 days, that's going to be blocked. Or it's going to be a tough slog, or it's just going to take a lot longer than you think it is. So you do have a lot of blockages and some and whatnot in this reading, in fact. So summing it up, moving forward looks like it's, I mean, in summary, I would say the message of this card is that moving forward may be very difficult for you for the next quarter. So it's kind of sad to end on a sad note or a tough note, but that's what it's looking like to me. I think that's all I'm going to say. So, wow, you have a lot of stuff going on. So best of luck to you, and I hope you can figure it out. I hope the people around you too can support you while you're trying to figure it out. Thanks for the opportunity to read you. Take care.